October 3, 1993, Mogadishu, Somalia. An American mission to capture militia leaders was supposed to take less than an hour. Instead, it became one of the most intense urban battles in U.S. military history. On that day, two snipers would voluntarily request to be inserted into the heart of hell. They knew they were almost certainly not coming back, and they went anyway. Their names were Randy Shugart and Garry Gordon.
Randy Shughart, calm, steady, a professional to the core. A former Army Ranger who later joined the elite Delta Force. Garry Gordon, older, senior in rank, strict and intensely disciplined, a man who demanded the absolute best from himself and others. They weren't movie-style heroes. They didn't chase fame. They didn't give dramatic interviews. They were simply men who did their job, and they did it better than almost anyone. By 1993, both were among the best snipers in their unit. The operation began as a standard raid, capture close aides of warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. But things went wrong. One Black Hawk helicopter was shot down by an RPG. Minutes later, a second one. The city erupted. Thousands of armed militia fighters began moving toward the crash sites. On the ground, isolated American units. In the air, sniper teams providing overwatch, including Shugart and Gordon. That's when they saw the second helicopter go down.
Inside the second Black Hawk, pilot Michael Durant. He was alive, but surrounded. Reports from the ground. A large armed crowd was closing in on the crash site. Shugart and Gordon understood something immediately. If no one went down there, the crew would be overrun. They requested permission to be inserted. Command denied it. Too dangerous. They requested again. Denied again. On the third request, they were granted approval. It wasn't an order. It was a choice. They knew they would be two men against hundreds.
They were inserted just meters from the crash site. First, they pulled the pilot from the cockpit and established a defensive position. Two men, a few rifles, limited ammunition, against a growing mob of armed fighters. Shugart took one position. Gordon covered another. They methodically engaged approaching attackers, shifting positions, reloading, firing again. Minutes felt like hours. Ammunition ran low. Witness accounts later stated, they fought until their final rounds. When Gordon ran out of ammunition, he passed his weapon to Shugart and continued fighting. The last thing pilot Michael Durant reportedly saw was Shugart standing alone, rifle in hand, surrounded on all sides. Both men were killed. Durant survived. He was captured, but later released.
Randy Shughart and Garry Gordon became the first service members since the Vietnam War to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously. But their story isn't about medals. It's about choice. No one ordered them to go down. No one demanded their sacrifice. They simply couldn't stay in the air, knowing their fellow soldiers were about to die.
Sometimes heroism isn't loud. It isn't dramatic speeches. It isn't cinematic glory. Sometimes it's two men who understand the odds and step forward anyway. Randy Shugart, Garry Gordon. Two against a city. And a lasting example of warrior honor.